And we'll start with 4A, which is an application by Walleys Quarry Limited at I'll start again. An application by Walleys Quarry Limited at Walleys Quarry Landfill, Cemetery Road, Newcastle-under-Lyme, and the application number is SCC 220078 full stroke MHA. And I think David's going to do the presentation.
Thank you, Chairman. The application is to allow waste carrying vehicles to park on the internal haul road between the hours of 6 and 7, Monday to Friday, excluding bank and public holidays. It seems the PowerPoint's not working at the moment, so I can't move on to my next slides. Okay.
Just check something, Simon. What do we need to do to get the PowerPoint working? Not working on this? Oh, it is now. Thank you. Okay.
All right. Thank you for that. The landfill site is west of Newcastle-under-Lyme. The site is shown on the red slide. The red star on the slide. Access to the site is from Cemetery Road. The cemetery is opposite the site entrance, along with a lay-by. The landfill site is shown in yellow on the plan, and the planning application boundary is shown in red. So we've got the planning application boundary there, and Cemetery Road runs around the site. Residential properties are located to the east and to the south of the site. A garden centre is located to the north. The photographs on the slide and in the report show the entrance and the haul road of the site. So we've got the entrance there, and the haul road where the vehicles would park. The applicant has explained that the haul road and weighbridge area would provide a temporary parking area. A plan was submitted showing 11 HGVs on the haul road, and a revised plan was later submitted showing an area for the HGV parking rather than a specific number. The orange area on the slide shows the parking, so we have the orange area along the slide there. The permission for the landfill site includes a condition which states that the operations at the site can start at 7 in the morning. No objections were raised by the technical consultees as reported in the report in paragraphs 24 to 36. 6 representations, a petition and correspondence from the Thistlebury Residents Association, Aaron Bell, the local MP, and Councillor Huckfield, who was an adjoining member, were received. Silverdale Parish Council have also objected. The concerns raised are summarised in paragraphs 38 to 44 of the report and considered in the observations section of the report. Paragraphs 47 to 69 of the report covers the key considerations. I'll now go through the main points on the slide. It is considered in terms of the general development plan policy and other material planning considerations that the proposed parking is acceptable in principle. Local representations, the Newcastle Borough Council, Environmental Health, raised concerns about highways, including the timings of the HGVs, and that HGV parking should be restricted near the quarry. The petition also requests that the Cemetery Road and the lay-by should be a no parking area or a red route. The applicant has explained that it is not possible for HGVs to arrive at pre-arranged times, and the provision of HGV parking at the site would remove some of the vehicles from Cemetery Road. The County Council's Highways Development Control team have provided responses in relation to the application, the issues raised by residents and consultees, and also the revised plan. A representative of the Development Control team is here today to answer any questions if members have any. The responses from the Highways Development Control team are summarised in paragraphs 24 and 25 of the report. Highways Development Control concludes that it would not be appropriate to recommend HGV parking restrictions or the implementation of a road route. The team have no objections subject to a condition to ensure that vehicles park on the internal haul roads as specified within the plan I showed earlier on. The representations also raised concerns about the operation of the site, specifically the commencement of landfilling operations during the proposed hours, the noise and odour generated by the HGVs. The report explains that the County Council Planning Regulation team monitor the site and check compliance with the planning permission and investigate any complaints. Action can therefore be taken if required and if appropriate. The existing permission includes conditions concerning the operation of the site, and these will not be altered. The planning regulation team have recommended conditions including ensuring HGVs engines are turned off once parked and that there should be no sounding of horns. It is concluded that the proposal accords with the development plan and represents sustainable development, and there are no clear and convincing reasons why the permission should not be permitted. The recommendation is to permit, subject to the conditions and the informatives listed on pages 24 and 25, and that the committee clerk inform the County Council's Prosperous Overview and Scrutiny Committee of the decision. Thank you, Chairman. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you. We'll move on to public speakers now, and the first one we've got down as an objector is Lee Bernadette Walford. Could you, two things, first of all, use your microphone, and secondly, there's 5 minutes for you to speak. So if you begin your presentation, please.
Good morning. Yesterday evening, following a perusal of this application, it threw up a few alarming points that I would like to highlight this morning. The site visit undertaken by the Highways Development Control of the 10th of August was during the school and university holidays. This and the 12th of October shows nothing remarkable. 2 days of observation between 6:45 and 7:30 is quite frankly not showing a true reflection of the problem. We have weeks of audits undertaken by Stop the Stink Fighting for Our Community with times, registrations and photographic evidence. The times covered by the Highways Development Control did not encompass the busy commuting times of the school runs. One of the alarming points is that it did not note within the feedback was if the Environment Agency was present at Walleys Quarry on paragraph 25C. On the 4th of May 2022, before the press and lorries and Red Industries were alerted to our plight, 44 lorries entered the site between 7 a.m. and 9:15. On the 20th of October, between 7 and 9:12, 37 lorries entered the site. Remarkably, only 11 lorries entered on the 6th of May when the Environment Agency were present doing on-site checks. On these figures, removing 11 lorries and permitting them to park in the internal haul roads would not alleviate the problem on Cemetery Road. Red Industries have breached the permits 65 times this year alone. They can't be trusted. I have provided a transcript of a meeting where I went to a meeting on the 10th of February 2021 that Audrey Young and myself had with Adam Share and Nikki Burks, who is the Community Engagement Director for Red Industries. Adam Share admits that he used to open the gates at 6 a.m. when he had permission to open at 7 a.m. because everybody turned a blind eye. He was deliberately ignoring the permitted times that he would open the gates until what he called the tag team, Simon Tagg and Aaron Bell, highlighted his breach. Mr. Shea was breaching his permit. Of course, Adam Shea is an ex-con and does not fear nor adhere to laws or permits, as his track record shows. Within the transcript, Nicky Burks from Red Industries stated, "We've got school children on buses going to school who were stuck in the middle of Cemetery Road, and I don't want my child in the middle of that. We cannot get past," referring to Cemetery Road. Highways Development Control have not covered or observed the busy commuter times around 8:15 a.m. My question is, why not? Adam Shea throws Staffordshire County Council under the bus, stating that the council just turns a blind eye. Walleys Quarry self-regulate. Give them an inch and they will take a mile. With an average of 55 lorries entering the site between 7 a.m. and 11 a.m, if you fill 11 spaces on the internal haul roads, then these will immediately be filled with a load of trucks filling the vacant spaces, and they'll queue along the Cemetery Road from both sides. It is my submission that the only way to prevent this is making Cemetery Road a red route. Who is to say that Red Industries will adhere to the 6 a.m. opening times and not start opening the gates at 5 a.m? As they have stated, they can fit up to 24 lorries on the internal haul roads. Who will regulate that? There will be non-compliance. Past performance is a very good indicator of future behaviour. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, and your timing was immaculate. We'll move on next to the Silverdale Parish Council representative, and apologies here, I'm going to try and pronounce your name. It's Henrik Adamchuk.
Henrik Adamchuk.
That's exactly what I was aiming for, thank you. Would you like to start? You've got 5 minutes.
Yes, I've been chair of Silverdale Parish Council for 6.5 years. I'm aware of the noise of waste-laden 6-axle articulated lorries. They weigh 44 tonnes with their full load, and they are noisy. Noise is proportional to weight, and 1 HGV equals 32 super minis. Silverdale Road, that's one of the main routes to the entrance from Newcastle-under-Lyme, is 10.5 metres and very close to lots of houses, terraced houses mostly. It was built 140 years ago and reconstructed many times, so it's an ideal road surface for transferring engine vibration noise to buildings through their foundations and their main structural walls. And a lorry travelling past homes in Silverdale Road, for a few seconds you hear that noise, whether it's 5 o'clock in the morning or 6, whatever time you hear that noise. Now, the number of HGVs parked in Silverdale Road is very low now, because we've complained to the police where up to 6 parked vehicles were bumper to bumper. But we don't accept that bad behaviour in the past should require a car park solution, which might imply lots of mental health problems for our community. So Silverdale Parish Council is opposed to the application on the grounds of noise and the possibility that we'll get more and at night time. The permit states 7 a.m. as the start of operations, and it's a universal red line in all these situations. But the company are pushing against that red line. Once they were able to open the gates at 6 a.m, and now we're getting a parking lot put across that red line. We believe the proposal will encourage more six-axle articulated HGV movements at unreasonable hours on the principal routes. That's the A525, the B5044, that's Silverdale Road, and the B5368, that's Church Lane and Cemetery Road. And there will be a more concentrated noise impacting in Silverdale, in Thistlebury, in Town and many other wards, and it will be more concentrated. So in many respects, we're standing up for residents who can't be here because they're not parish councillors or not involved in a parish councillors. And we're very concerned that there's no noise assessment for this application. And we do know that where there's mineral extraction licences, they do include noise assessments. For example, Walleys Quarry in Northampton. In the Walleys case, an acoustic report was completed with noise readings from articulated lorries in a test experiment over 6 to 7 a.m. At minimum, that noise condition should be applied to this application, and a consideration of the health implications on nighttime noise from these vehicles. These vehicles are the noisiest of all road traffic. There's international evidence that the transport noise causes sleep disturbance. And the World Health Organization guidance advises for a good night's sleep, the noise within to bedroom should not exceed 30 decibels, and individual noise events should not exceed 45. So there's lots of evidence that these lorries can cause a disturbance. And furthermore, we don't want a lorry park as a precedent for future operations, and that the noise plus the danger of a permanent lorry park in that location are the most concerning issues for Silverdale Parish Council. Thank you.
Thank you again. Thank you for your timing. Could we now, we've got two speakers on Teams or via Teams. Could we start please with Dr. Adrakakis? Could you please confirm that you're online and can hear us properly?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Again, 5 minutes if you'd like to start your presentation. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for allowing me to address this committee today. The Thistlebury Residents Association has been pleased to support this application, particularly as the intention appears to be to resolve the issue of lorries parking outside the landfill site prior to the opening hour of 7 a.m. Allowing for up to 23 lorries to park inside the site would be a practical solution to the problem, given that the County Council and the police appear not to have taken too much interest in the issue. Although a double red line zone was suggested some years ago as a solution, this never materialised. We have been assured by the MJCA report, who with the company drafted this application, that there will be no adverse impact or conflict with the wider operations of the site or changes made to the permitted number per week of heavy goods vehicles, which stands currently at 880 vehicles per week entering and leaving the site, or lorries depositing waste before 7 a.m. This application is important since it is possibly a response to some drivers not observing the already existing rules re their behaviour whilst off-site. As a member of the Landfill Liaison Committee, the TRA has been made aware, as has the Staffordshire County Council, also a member, that the company, although it tries via guidance to control driver behaviour, we are led to believe that the company has no jurisdiction to manage lorries off-site. Off-site behaviour is a matter for the County Council Highways, Traffic Department and the police. However, If this application is approved, hopefully the company will be able to control the behaviour of some drivers once they are on site, and it would appear that strict measures to do this have been presented as part of this application, which will be added to the already existing rules for driver behaviour once on site. It is and always has been the responsibility of all regulators of the site to enforce these and any other on or off-site rules when necessary. Last year, the Environment Agency, as the main site regulator, made 188 visits to this landfill site. So it is highly likely that any breaches to any rules attached to any permission granted would go undetected. Under these circumstances, it would be foolhardy indeed for any company to risk its licence in this way. Given the number of complaints made regarding the lorry lineup outside, it would be useful to know how many times County Council officers visited Cemetery Road to assess the situation. Although this application has been, in our view, a very long time in coming, and the County Council has been, as far as we can see, somewhat complicit in these delays, this application, if permitted, would be welcomed as a possible solution. This is why the Thistlebury Residents Association would wish to support this application as a possible way forward. We understand it will, of course, the Commission will, of course, be regulated. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the second speaker via Teams again is Paul Lealman. Paul, could you confirm that you can hear us and we can hear you?
Yes, I can, Chair.
Thank you. You have 5 minutes. Please start your presentation. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you so much for providing the opportunity to Walleys Quarry Limited to speak to the Planning Committee today. It is greatly appreciated. We understand that there may be multiple perspectives with regard to objectives and outcomes of the application, but it is our view is that approving the application is an approval based on responding positively to local stakeholders and in particular the community. This application has been requested to discourage vehicles from parking elsewhere, which is considered by the community as a safety risk. The proposal to park HGVs on the site internal haul road prior to operations commencing at 7 o'clock is fully supported by the Highways Authority and is a potentially simple measure which will support vehicles being able to access the site and discourage them from parking elsewhere in the peripheral areas adjacent to the quarry, which we have no authority or legal power over. If we review the origins of the application, there are no operational advantages for Walleys Quarry Limited in proposing the change to the current planning condition. It permits no extra vehicles visiting the site, nor amends the approved lorry routing. It permits no extra waste being deposited at the site, and it permits no earlier deposit of waste at the site than the current start time of 7 o'clock. No physical changes to the existing access and internal haul road or site layout are proposed. Parking vehicles on site between 6 o'clock and 7 will potentially reduce the congestion off-site by allowing vehicles to arrive at and park on site within the hour prior to the start of normal operational activities. It permits only the change requested by the stakeholders, including the community. The statutory consultees to this application have scrutinised the application details, and Newcastle Under-Lyme Borough Council Planning, Staffordshire County Council SCC Planning Regulation, the Environment Agency, Staffordshire Police and the Highways Authority do not object to the proposal. With safety as the key motivation, the Highways Authority fully supports the proposal for highways safety reasons, and Staffordshire Police recognise that the proposal is a positive step in addressing local concerns. In conclusion, I would like to thank the committee for listening to this statement and understanding the central objective of the application to provide a well-operated site access and parking at the site to allow vehicles to park on site Monday to Friday in preparation for the site opening time at 7 o'clock. With this in mind, we would ask that this is the central objective is received by the committee in the spirit intended, so they feel able to vote positively for the application. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We've got Councillor Tagg is actually in a meeting next door, leaders meeting, so he can't attend. He has, however, sent an email to me and asked me to relay the content of the email to the planning committee. He obviously says he's a local member and for this application, and his words are, I would like to be associated with the comments of Newcastle Borough Council and Newcastle Borough Council Environmental Health Team, detailed on page 10 of the report, and I have no objections to the recommendation to permit with the condition detailed in the report. And regards, Simon. So that's that. Before I open it up for discussion to members, could I just, again, it's on the screen, remind members that this is purely about permitting the development to allow waste-carrying vehicles to park on the internal Hall Road between 6 o'clock in the morning and 7 o'clock Monday to Friday, and that excludes bank holidays and public holidays. And then the second part, as you see on the recommendation, is that when we have made a decision, this will be informed to the Council's Prosperous Overview and Scrutiny Committee, as they've already had this as an agenda item in the future and asked for any feedback that came from it. And then that allows them to put it on a future agenda if they want to. So at which point I will open it up to members to discuss, ask questions as required. David, I see you've got your light on.
I'm lit up this morning, Chairman. Chairman, two things really. One thing I think that we ought to reassure the community about, that this is not an application to increase the number of vehicles. I know it isn't from what we're considering today, but I think that could result in a concern as far as the community is concerned. And I think that a reassurance that this is not a precursor to an increased volume of traffic. The second point I was going to ask, I see that we have a condition within the approval, well, the recommendation on the refusal to use horns on site. And I just wonder whether that would include the use of reversing warnings, which can be very noisy and very penetrating. Would it be practical to put a condition in that there's no reversing on site? I don't know. They're very, very noisy. Thank you, Chairman.
Would you answer, if possible, both of those points?
The horns is, the condition about horns is really just so that they're not sounding horns unnecessarily, other than an emergency, which obviously you would expect them to want to do if somebody was in danger. The reversing, again, is a health and safety requirement, but I wouldn't anticipate a lot of requirement to reverse once they've driven onto site to park. But again, it would only be a health and safety matter, so we couldn't necessarily rule out that requirement. But obviously the difference is with reversing, I wouldn't expect it to be over a long period of time. Unlike some sort of machine on site that's reversing a long way, any reversing would be just to adjust the vehicle in the parking slot during those times. On the rest of the site, they would have normal operating requirements. These are conditions only applied to this permission and this section of Hall Road. So it would be I don't anticipate any real requirement for reversing, because all they're going to do is park up and wait for 7 o'clock to then move off and go through the weighbridge. So I don't expect that to be an issue in this case. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Even though this is not a request for further traffic flows down Cemetery Road and into the site, I would have thought that by offering this facility, it would encourage increased traffic flows earlier in the day. And I'm minded as to what the first objector said as regards that this has not been properly analysed during school term. Because I would have thought that the school term hit on Cemetery Road would be the best possible outcome if this was done. And in all probability, in the early hours of the morning, that traffic flow would increase. Because it's human nature, isn't it? If people know it's open at 6, they will, more drivers will get there more quickly, so they're front of the queue and all the rest of it. And it's just, even though it's not asking for more traffic flows, human nature is such that this would likely determine more traffic flows in the long run. You look quizzical. I'm not sure I'm articulating myself properly.
Evidence suggests at the moment that they're using a convoy system to bring the traffic to the site for 7 o'clock. Prior to the gates being closed and they've been reminded about that they're not supposed to be there at 7 o'clock, they were parking up nearby, and the gates were open and they were going on site early, or they were parking up nearby when the gates were closed. So it's had a knock-on effect when they were reminded that they're not supposed to be letting traffic on. What we're trying to do here is regularise a situation that happened previously that was seen as a solution, in the sense that allowing the traffic to come on, park up and wait for 7 o'clock. So we anticipate that this will help the situation. It'll prevent the traffic parking up on nearby roads and causing a potential traffic safety, highway safety concern. The noise, the traffic, there is traffic on those roads anyway. The fact that the traffic is there turning up between 6 and 7 shouldn't have an impact on school traffic, for example, at that time in the morning. Simon Hawke, and probably from Highways Development Control, could probably explain a little bit more about this, but evidence from what they've seen is the number of vehicles that turn up and want to arrive for 7 o'clock in the convoy is about the number that we're talking about now. So that's what the evidence suggests.
Sorry, pardon me, Chair. There isn't a likelihood that that would increase if this was put through.
I don't know. I mean, but obviously, if it does increase, then the problem will be that they would have to, there'd be only the spaces on site to park up, and there'd be no other spaces. So then maybe what the company would have to do is also include the convoy system to make sure that they're not causing a problem that was originally there, which was the parking on nearby roads. So as far as we're concerned, this provides a solution. But they've already got a solution, which is the convoy system, which they're operating at the moment. They won't need to use the convoy system if parking on site means that has solved the problem. If it's only part of the solution, then they would perhaps have to also adopt the convoy system for any additional traffic. Otherwise, there's no space on site, so they would have to go elsewhere.
So should one of the conditions not be that we insist that they readopt the convoy solution if this ends up not going the way we envisage?
I mean, that's an off-site matter. The only way we could do that is through a legal agreement, in truth. So that would be an additional requirement if members wish to ask for that.
Councillor McMahon, would you like to hear from regulatory control? I think that would be...
Thanks, Chair. I think the thing to concentrate on is what the application is before us. We're just here to see whether we want to open the whole road before 7 o'clock, because the issues that have been reported. The same thing was there this morning. The convoy arrived just after 7 o'clock into the site. Didn't really cause an issue from a highways point of view. It seemed to accommodate it quite quickly. It went into the site. In terms of some of the other issues that have been raised, and we haven't been there at other hours of the day, The only thing I would say to that is the application itself, we visited it for the purposes of what's there before us today. So in terms of increasing the numbers to the site, I think you've got a condition on the numbers that's attached to the original permission. So in terms of actually increasing that number of vehicles to the site, that was assessed during the original 2012 permission, that it was found to be acceptable, that their number of vehicles could be accommodated on the highway between the hours of 7 and the closing time on the site. So that's already been assessed and seen to acceptable. I think all we're doing today is, do we want the whole road opening to accommodate the vehicles that have been arriving before 7 o'clock in the site, or carry on as they are at the moment with them being convoyed from elsewhere? But either way, it still doesn't cause a problem in terms of a highway objection, in terms of being severe impact or a highway safety issue.
Phil, Councillor Hudson.
Yeah, Chair, I've read through the report, and the police are very much in favour of this for road safety for the right reasons, and so are other people. If we're so unsure that this might be the right decision, could we put another condition on there, that we perhaps have a trial period of 6 months to see what happens, and if the fears of the residents are, come to volition, then we could perhaps relook at it. But at the moment, I'm tending towards that we should go for it, but if people have reservations, then I'm quite happy to say, can we give it a trial period and see how we go there?
Can I just say, as chair, obviously we've been through the reports elsewhere to make sure it's right. Because of the recent history of Walleys Quarry, it is under a lot of scrutiny. And I think that if you start chopping and changing...
quite a nice person, she doesn't need to hate me or be scared of me.
If you start chopping and changing conditions and reducing them, it confuses not only residents but also the applicants as well. As I've said, this site is under intense scrutiny from lots of different agencies, I know, and the Staffordshire County Council is just one of them. And this application in front of us has been put forward to try and alleviate traffic concerns, as has been mentioned already. Just a view from the officers about the 6-month suggestion from Councillor Hudson.
We do sometimes look at trial temporary permissions where we've got concerns and doubts, or we need to, as I say, literally have a trial period. On this occasion, from an officer point of view, because there were no technical objections, we didn't recommend a trial period, but it's not something, it is something that we've done before, so it is a possibility of members are minded to recommend that.
Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Chairman. I don't think that a 6-month trial period is really a practical solution. I would assume that if we approve the application today, then if it goes wrong, it will have to come back to this committee for consideration of an amendment in some sort of way. But I think that at this sort of stage, I would want to recommend approval of the application and no time period on it. But obviously, like all applications, if something was going wrong with it or we needed to re-look at it, we'd have every opportunity to do that and bring it back to this committee. Thank you, Chairman.
Can I just confirm that that's a proposal for approval of the permission? Did you want to come back, Mike?
Yeah, just to clarify on that, so it's clear to everybody, it would only come back to the committee, for example, if there was a breach of the planning permission, and that the applicant then wanted to address that breach by applying to vary the planning permission, then potentially it could come back to the committee, or a fresh application could be made. So it would be on that basis that it would come back to committee.
I'll bring Councillor Hudson in on this point, and then Councillor Sutherland.
Yeah, so hearing that then, so we've got to get this decision right today because we don't get an automatic right to get it right in 6 months' time. So that's where I'm coming from. But, you know, looking at the proposals and the reports that are coming in, I agree that, you know, we should go ahead with this. But it's a question of getting that decision right today because there's no automatic right for us to rehear it again.
Thank you. Councillor Sutherland, please.
Thank you, Chair. There's no doubt about it. This is a delicate balance decision for me. But I am mindful within the report that we're actually trying to do something positive with the on-site parking where you can have discipline, as opposed to off-street parking with all the problems that causes and no discipline. I'm also minded of the speakers here today. It would appear that we're not addressing some of the concerns that they've got. But I am minded also that the leader of Newcastle Council is, in the main, supportive that we take this decision here today. Thank you, Chair.
If we've got no other contributions from members, no? Could I have a seconder for David's proposal? Okay, Councillor Sutherland. And could we show of hands, please, if you're in favour of it? And against? Okay, thank you. On that basis, you've made a record of the voting, and this proposal has been permitted by the Planning Committee. So we'll move on now, please, to agenda item 4B, which is an application